Welcome to episode 548 of the podcast. Today we're going to look at customer retention, or rather, this is just going to be an introduction to customer retention, why that is important, what customer retention is, and why that is important. Now, the reason why we're looking at this question today is because for those of you who've been listening to the podcast for a while, if you've definitely caught the last maybe 10, 15 episodes, you know that currently I'm reviewing questions that were addressed during an Evolve Africa business incubation session where I was the head of the sales panel. And we were treating questions from people who had already been in business, ranging from, I think the youngest person there had been in business for, I think, 2 years, and we had somebody maybe 5 or 7. Okay, let's just keep it conservative. So let's say people who have been in business between 2 to 5 years, addressing the sales challenges that they have, broader business problems that they have, and how any insight from a sales perspective could help cure those problems. And so, customer retention was one of those issues that came up that we didn't address in great detail because we had 1 hour for the session. I think we had 22 people who were there, and we went, I think, an hour, 45 minutes, and I didn't want to push it any longer because I found that at these live sessions, especially since I like to keep things free flowing, question and answer, people get really engaged and sometimes can get really long. I think we've done a 3 hour session before, 3 hours, 3.5. I think I've even done 4, but I think that was maybe 2 years ago. I've made sure I've promised that we're not going to do any of those 4 hour sessions anymore, because regardless of whether you guys enjoy the 4 hour sessions or not, 4 hour sessions leave me completely knackered. I mean, it's fun answering all the questions and coming up with creative solutions and creative ideas to solve your business problems. Well, 4 hours, quite frankly, leaves me rather tired. Anyway, so I promised the good fellows at Evolve Africa that I would take some of the leftover questions, some of the questions that were addressed, explore them in some more details over here on the podcast, and then also take some of those questions that we didn't tackle at all and make them podcast episodes as well, so that people who are part of that cohort, the Evolve Africa incubation class of 2022, the last quarter of 2022, would be able to have these as learning resources. So this is one of those learning resources in the series. So this is a leftover question that we didn't tackle, or rather we tackled it, but we didn't go into it in a lot of detail. So the next episode, we're going to be exploring the actual mechanics of how we handle customer retention. Spoiler, for those of you who've been listening for a while, you already have pretty much an idea of how this is done, because in exploring sales frameworks, follow-up frameworks, things like that, we've already touched on some of these ideas about customer retention and customer service. But if this is your first time of listening to the episode, to this podcast, this is episode 548. So that means we have 547 podcast episodes that were prior to this. But don't worry, you don't have to listen to every single episode if you're merely interested in just customer service issues. All you have to do is scroll down and look for episodes that have customer service expressly in the title. Customer service, customer retention, those sorts of things. Listen to those ones, and that's enough to get you caught up to date, or to give you a fair idea of all the issues that are involved. So now that we're done with the preamble, let's get into why customer service is important. Sorry, not customer service. Why customer retention is important in the first place. Forgive me if I keep using the terms interchangeably. It's not like they're interchangeable, but you can see how they are related. I usually talk about them in the same breath: customer retention and customer service issues. So that's why the slip up keeps occurring. But I'm sure you guys know where we're heading with this, so you forgive me for those regressions. So, customer retention, why is that important? The reason why customer retention is important, especially from a sales perspective, is this. Trying to get new customers is really hard, because if you're going to get a new customer, there has to be some chasing involved. It's either you are going to go out every day and chase people down, or you're going to go out every day and look for ways to make yourself more attractive so that people chase you down. In the first scenario, chasing people so that they can be customers of your business involves prospecting, canvassing, whatever it is you want to call it, talking to strangers, handing out flyers, going for meetings, picking up the phone, calling people, follow up. You get the picture. That is when you are doing the chasing. Then there are other forms of increasing your sales that are much more inbound oriented. You want people to find you attractive and then call you up. So you make sure that your website is up to date, your copy on your website is on point to attract people, your SEO is top notch so that people find you in Google searches. What else? Your TikTok content is appealing, make people want to inquire. All your links are out there on your link trees, on your Instagram bio, your Twitter bio, your everything bio, so that people can click through and they find you. You're putting out your promotions, you're putting out your advertisements on Google, on Instagram, or whatever. I mean, you get the point. You're trying to create this aura. Oh, of course, it also applies in the physical space as well, because you might be advertising in the church bulletin, or you have a sign outside your office, your studio, your whatever, or maybe you start doing things like putting wrapping around your cars. For those of us who are in the electoral cycle here in Nigeria, it's something you're already familiar with because you're seeing cars all over the city. Well, at least in Abuja anyway, there are cars all over the city that have been wrapped in the party insignia and also have the faces of the presidential candidates, well, the big two. Unfortunately, for some reason, Peter Obi, the dark horse in the race, doesn't seem to have a visible presence in Abuja. Some people say that there's some foul play there, that he's not being allowed to campaign freely in Abuja and in certain states. But anyway, that's beyond the topic of this podcast. The bottom line is, you have already, if you're listening to this podcast now, you're based in Abuja, Lagos, and in the eastern parts of Nigeria. You definitely have seen car wrapping going around, and this is one of those ways that we're trying to make ourselves much more attractive. You know, people see the vehicle with your logo, with your wonderful face, and with benefits and your phone number and your email address and the website and everything, and then people reach out if they have a need for a product or your service. So those are the two ways that we go about trying to drum up business. Number one, we go and chase people down. Number two, we make ourselves look real nice and attractive so that people will chase us down. Now, I'm sure you've figured out from all the things that I've said, whether it's picking up the phone, driving to meetings, or handing out flyers in the mall, or paying for a wrap for your car, or paying for a billboard, or paying for someone to come and do your SEO, or sitting down for hours on end to rewrite the copy on your website to be much more enticing, or sitting down with the marketing team to come up with promotional material and promo ideas and new packages and things like that. You can see that all this takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money, and it takes a lot of energy. So, if we can come up with a system that makes the need for selling less obvious, then we're doing ourselves a favor, because it means that we have to spend less time, we have to spend less money, and less of our emotional and financial resources trying to chase down customers. So in other words, if you run a business, you sell cement, and you get Alhaji Dalhatu to buy 3 trailer loads of 10,000 bags each, if you do that this month, that's good. It's a nice haul. And you should pat yourself on the back, because the profit margins on that are going to be not bad. But then again, if you do your job right, and Alhaji Dalhatu is a property developer in Abuja with several projects going on, then if you're able to score so that he buys 3 lorries in January, and then 5 lorry loads in March, and then maybe 12 in July, and then maybe 6 again in August, and then a couple more in September, and then finally in December, you can see that the margins for you guys are obviously much more robust. You have much more robust profit margins. But then it also means that you spend less time selling, because in January, when you get Alhaji Dalhatu to buy 3 trucks of cement from you, there's going to be a lot involved. You're going to call him, you go to the office, you show up at the site, you call to follow up, there's going to be small talk, all kinds of things. You're investing and you're trying to build a relationship. When he comes for the second run, however, you don't have to invest that much time and effort involved in the process because you have built up a prior relationship. There's some commonality between you guys. There's a sense of history. There's also some security because the first time he paid you upfront, there was no hassle. So I mean, if this time he wants another container and he only has 95% of the money now, and he's going to square you guys 5%. The remaining 5% in another 3 weeks or something. I mean, there's some shared history here. There's some security. And by the time he comes the third or the fourth time, I mean, basically, you guys are family, and you can expect that this relationship, if handled well, could last another 3, 4, 5 years for all the other property developments that they have going on in Abuja. And maybe if they expand to Nasarawa State or Niger State or the states that are around the Federal Capital Territory, you guys might also get a significant chunk of that business as well. So you can see that if you have, let's say, the profit margins on Dalhatu's account, let's say for year one. Sorry, I don't know anything about the cement trade, so I'm just coming up with figures. I'm making things up. So don't take me to task on them. So let's say the profit margin on Al-Haji Dalhatu for Abuja alone in the first year was 15M and the second year was 15M. Then reasonably, you could expect that for year three, he might also spend another 15 million with you guys, assuming that the macroeconomics factors are the same. Assuming, that politics, the elections doesn't go to a complete shit show and that maybe inflation doesn't get worse or the trends in housing don't change, you can really expect that he's going to do another 15 mil with you guys in year three. Now, if you're coming off of year two and you kind of suspect that Alhaji Dalhatu is going to do another 15 million of business in year three, then obviously you're not going to be that stressed about school fees. You're not going to be that stressed about getting new inverter batteries or diesel for the office. You're not going to be too stressed about, what else? Paying for staff, people to man the warehouse. There's a lot of stuff that you're not going to be too stressed about because you not only have Alhaji Dalhatu, but you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of all those other clients there that you can trust on their repeat business. And this is the primary reason why customer retention is important. If you have all these people and you can kind of bank on these relationships, then every year, every quarter is not do or die. You're going out looking for new people, always trying to come up with new ideas and all the hassle. If you sort out your customer retention issues, it doesn't mean that you don't have to sell. I'm just saying that it relieves the pressure. And sometimes you can even increase your profit margins by focusing on customer retention, as in this guy is a high value target, this woman is a high value client. So the more you service them, the more products and services that you can offer them, the greater value that you deliver to relationship, the greater value that you can receive in return. So that is the rationale on why customer retention is important. If you do a good job of customer retention today, then tomorrow, next month, next year, next 2, 3 years, next 5 years, whatever, the pressure to go out and look for new customers is lessened. And that is the reason why people who ask questions like these during the live sessions, or whether on WhatsApp or wherever it is that you reach out and ask me the question, that is why people who ask these sorts of questions are thinking in the right direction. And that's the direction that we ought to be thinking in, because it truly does make life easier. If you haven't thought about these sorts of things in the past, you've been in business 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, no problem. It's good that you've been exposed to this kind of thinking right now. And so you should come up with a plan for how to make this an important part of your business, customer retention. If you're curious, then in the episodes that follow, tomorrow and maybe the day after, we're going to explore the mechanics and the dynamics of how you make sure that more people stay with your business. So thank you very much for listening to today's episode. Remember that you guys can ask me anything on WhatsApp or Telegram. You send me a voice note or you send me a text message. I'll try and figure out how we can incorporate voice notes onto the podcast. For now, I haven't figured that out yet. Eventually, I should get an editor for the show so that I leave all the technical stuff up to them. Anyway, bottom line is you can ask me anything on WhatsApp or Telegram. The number is 080 6466 2140. Again, the number is 080 6466 2140. The country code for Nigeria is +234. Again, the country code is +234. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next episode where we start getting into the nitty-gritty, the tactics, all the details about how we handle customer retention in our businesses.